You're listening to Love Without Lies, real talk about love, sex, and the truth most people are afraid to say out loud. Let's go. So this morning, I was literally mid-scroll on Instagram watching everyone's perfect couple photos, and all I could think was, who are we trying to fool? Because if you've ever sat across the dinner table from the person you love and felt absolutely nothing, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this episode is definitely for you. So the other day, someone slipped into my DMs on Instagram and asked me this question. Why do so many people in a relationship end up feeling dead inside? Like, why does the relationship start to die? And the truth is, I didn't understand this years ago. And there's not really one simple reason. It's such a nuanced question and it's so complicated. And if you think that there is one thing that will magically stop this from happening, you're kidding yourself. And stay with me on this because what I'm going to share is really important. And what I've seen over and over again is there isn't just one like specific reason. There's just a lot of layers to it. But let me tell you a little bit about my backstory so you understand where I'm coming from. I didn't understand men years ago. I actually got into this work because I had failed at marriage in the past. And for the longest time, I blamed men for everything that wasn't working. Because it's so much easier, right, to point the finger and say to ourselves something like, well, this is what I said to myself. Like, if he would just do this differently, then I'd feel loved and the relationship would feel more alive and things would work out. But eventually, I had to realize I could no longer expect men to fix what was broken without taking responsibility for how I was showing up. I had to learn how to love a man for what he needed, for what made him feel loved. So crazy me, I went on this relentless pursuit to learn everything about men, like what they need, why they need it, and how it actually works so that I can make sense of it. And what I discovered is something most people don't talk about. It was so crazy. I searched and searched and searched. And what was astonishing is there isn't a lot of information about what men need and why. I mean, there were endless books about how men should treat women, how they should show up and make her feel safe, provide, adored, prioritized, but almost nothing about what men need in order to feel fulfilled in a relationship. And correct me if I'm wrong on this part, but I didn't find anything on what a man should expect from a woman. See, we teach our girls how men should treat them, right? He should open the door. He should never raise his voice. He should plan the dates. He should make us feel like we're the most important thing in the world. He should love us at our worst. And by the way, that's my least favorite quote. And we teach our boys basically just show up and make her happy. Make her your number one priority. And if you can't do that, you can't prioritize her and love her at her worst, you're failing as a man. And it's not just in relationships we see this. Like, we see this in our culture all the time. Women are praised for having expectations, for knowing what they want, for voicing their needs. But when a man has expectations, he's called controlling, entitled, even selfish. A woman's wants and needs, they're celebrated, but a man's are criticized. How's that even fair? How's it right? Yet it's the same double standard we see everywhere. Like how women are celebrated for embracing their sexuality, but when a man embraces his, he's made out to be some demoralizing villain. And I want to give you an example. And I know this example is outside of the relationship context, but think about this. A woman can get paid to share her sexuality, and the same culture that applauds her will shame the man who pays to view it. And we don't even realize how often this seeps into our relationships. But yet, here's why this matters. Men haven't been taught that it's okay to have boundaries and expectations, that it's okay to want to be respected, that it's okay to expect a woman to treat him with kindness and appreciation. And let me tell you, anytime I talk about this publicly or on social media, the comments are brutal. It's almost seen as misogynistic in our world today to say that a man should have expectations or standards for how he's treated. Think about that. The truth is, none of this is about blaming anyone. It's about telling you my truth. And here's something most people never want to admit. We have to begin to fix our dead relationships by telling the truth. And the truth is your expectations. And I can bet right now, if you're willing to admit your truth, your current relationship probably isn't working the way that you had been hoping it would. It's probably just barely surviving. But I want to reassure you that it's not your fault. Most of us have never been taught and don't actually know how to have a fulfilling relationship. And I can't say that often enough. It's taken me years to get to a place where I am today. And what I've seen usually happens is we settle for as much dysfunction as we can tolerate, and then we pride ourselves for staying. We actually begin to lower our expectations just to help us accept the dysfunction. And here's the kicker. When we're dissatisfied, we blame ourselves. We tell ourselves we're the problem. We think if I just expect less, this will feel okay. But that's the crossroads. You can either change your reality or you can keep lowering your expectations. And more than we like to admit, a lot of us stay in this dysfunction with our expectations so low that we forget what it even feels like to be in something healthy and loving. So we end up convincing ourselves that this is just how relationships are. Because we fear that if we tell the truth about what's like not working for us, that it'll just cause more rupture or more problems. But that fear is eating away at the soul of our relationships, and it's adding to the quiet death of that relationship. And here's where it gets really interesting. And before I go any further, yes, of course, men can get better at how they treat women, and women too. The truth is, we all have a lot of work to do in this area. We all have a lot of work in how we show up and love each other. But here's what almost no one talks about when it comes to men. When I'm coaching men who've been in long-term relationships, the hardest part for them is creating boundaries and having expectations because they were never taught this. But listen up, men. If you're listening right now and you're a man, you can't keep existing in relationships without standards, expectations, or boundaries. Because what happens is you end up people pleasing. You think if I just keep doing all the right things, staying calm, staying steady, providing, she'll eventually see how good I am. And then it starts looking like conflict avoidance. Letting her treat you however she wants and never asking for anything you need. And then you begin to feel like you're doing everything right? Because it's everything you were taught. But yet you feel dead and the relationship is dying. And that's where the resentment starts to build. You're literally ready to explode at the drop of a hat. And sometimes you do, and that's okay. But you're literally ready to explode at the drop of a hat because you keep doing all the right things just to keep the relationship alive and to keep her happy. but you feel so alone. And that's where you begin to feel unwanted and disrespected. You become so focused on not getting divorced or the relationship coming to an end that you keep self-sacrificing, hoping it will somehow get better. I was recently asked if I ever tell anyone to leave their marriage or their relationship. And the answer is yes. But before you judge me, let me explain why. I do think some relationships are too far gone. Like, even if you tried to raise your expectations, nothing would change in that relationship, and your partner wouldn't be willing to give you what you need. And sometimes those relationships need to end. But I believe that leaving a marriage or relationship on good terms is better and more courageous than watching someone disrespect themselves to the point they're having mental health issues and their entire life is falling apart. You know what I've learned? If you want to change the dynamics of your relationship, you have to actually want it badly enough to do your part without pointing the finger and blaming your partner for not doing theirs. You've got to decide, I want something different and I'm willing to show up differently to get it. Because here's the truth. Most men want a woman who treats him respectfully, who makes him feel seen and loved. But the only way this happens is when you start having expectations and you're willing to own them out loud. Then your partner has a choice to fulfill your expectations or not. And you have a choice too, whether you want to stay with someone who's willing or unwilling to give you what you need. Before we go any further, I want you to really pause for a moment and think about this. When you got into your relationship, did you have any expectations about how you wanted to be treated? Because I know I didn't. Because what I've discovered is most of us didn't. And if we did, they were silent expectations. But it's never too late to start creating them. What I want you to remember is when we don't voice what we need, our partners will never know what we want. And that's where that ugliness of resentment starts setting in. That's where the attraction starts to fade. That's where you sit at the dinner table and you feel nothing with the person you love. And I'll be the first to admit, there are very few women who know how to treat a man in a way that makes him feel seen. I was one of them. But men, you have to help us learn how to love you because we were never taught. And there's not a lot of books or podcasts or posts or blogs that help us understand what makes you feel loved. And without your help, most of us end up loving you in a way that we best know how. But oftentimes, that isn't really what makes you feel alive and loved. This disconnect, it really happens from both sides because we were never taught, and men were never taught that it's okay to have expectations and to voice them. Yet, ironically, when we both have our expectations met, when we're both willing to voice them, we feel loved, and then we both naturally want to contribute to the quality of that relationship. I just think that's so beautiful. And like, that's where the magic happens. And listen, I found this out the hard way, but nobody hands out a trophy at the end of your life for sticking it out in a relationship that's slowly killing you. Yet so many people are doing exactly that. And maybe no one ever told you this, but you matter. You are allowed to expect more. You're allowed to teach people how to treat you. Because here's the thing, when you start aligning yourself with how you actually want to be treated and you have the courage to voice it out loud, that's when everything shifts. That's when you finally stop feeling like you have to settle in a dead relationship. That's when you get to stop performing. And having expectations and voicing them, it's not about fighting or causing rupture. It's not about controlling anyone. It's about showing up with enough self-respect to say, this is who I am, and this is what matters to me. And trust me, when you can do that in an emotionally intelligent way, it's a win-win. If this stirred something in you, share it, re-listen, let it land. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find everything at therespectedman.com. Coaching, courses, and now, What Would Teresa Say, your private AI coach for men. Remember, you don't have to shrink to be loved. You don't have to go numb to stay. Stay open, stay honest, and I'll catch you next time on Love Without Lies.